challenges we're seeing out here, just an open discussion on what solutions there might be out there, challenges, and kind of what we're seeing. Anytime we get the chance to promote agriculture, we're going to invite anybody down, no matter what your policy, what side you lie on. We're just very happy to promote agriculture, and it takes a whole team effort. So we're very happy to have Tim here as well.
Great.
Tim,
Well, thank you both. Thank you, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. We got,
The boss.
being on a fifth-generation farm, and if you heard folks earlier Jim talking about 1857, this farm's been here before Minnesota was here. And like so many people, they don't, when they talk about how farming operations are in Minnesota, these are family operations. These are family businesses. And it's a tough business. It's a tough business because there's a lot of things you can't predict, like the weather. And it can be a lot about risk management. You're going to hear from some folks who are multi-commodity groups from Farmers Union, Farm Bureau. You're going to hear from the soybean folks. And I think Matt said exactly right on this. This is an issue that has always been kind of risen above the partisanship. And it's so important to Minnesota. This is a major part of our economy still. When we're talking soybeans, we're top 4 producer, 330, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, 330 million bushel a year, roughly. It puts us right up in the top 4. And this is a market and an opportunity to make money, to help feed the world, clothe the world, power the world, innovate in the world, which we can use these products for. And these folks are in a pretty tough time right now. And I think what I really appreciated here, listening to folks talk about find some solutions. Dan was talking about find some solutions. Are there domestically things we can do? I've been a strong advocate, a co-chair of the governor's biofuels initiatives of things that we can do around year-round biodiesel, about innovations in sustainable aviation fuel. It's my goal, and I think it's a goal of a lot of us, to make Minnesota the North American hub of production of biofuels. We have great partners like Delta Airlines. We're partnered with Ecolab about water quality. We're partnered with the petroleum manufacturers who are going to start transitioning to sustainable aviation fuel. So all of those things, and I think getting out here and for the people of Minnesota to understand exactly what's going on here, trade policies that are happening that are making an impact on it, but understanding, and I say this a lot having served on the Ag Committee, farm safety net programs like crop insurance or conservation programs, those benefit all of us. There is a reason that America's food supply is the safest, most abundant, and most affordable. It's because we make sure there's not a boom and bust cycle that drive these folks off the land. So it's really important right now that both we solve our trade issues as quickly as we can, but we also think about domestic markets for these products and making opportunities available. And we said it here, you see some young folks around here on this farm. Trying to get young people onto the land is really critical because the next generation is going to have to continue to feed us. And I'm just grateful for the work that goes into this, the entrepreneurial spirit. And let's just be very candid. It's a lifestyle that when farmers are on the land and the family farmers are on the land, the rural communities are thriving too. So I'm just grateful for this team that's here. I think I'm going to turn over to Dan and Gary who are going to say a few things from the commodity groups. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, there's no doubt the farm economy is really challenged. We're coming into a great harvest. There's a lot of average or above average crops out there that farmers are harvesting currently, and these products need somewhere to go. Beyond that, we're rolling into our 3rd year of kind of depressed commodity prices, and so that's really drawing down on those credit lines. But beyond that, we're feeling the pressure of record high inputs as well. So that really crunches that margin, and farmers are no different. You're looking for every bit of efficiency that you can get out of every acre or every animal or whatever it is. But there's only so many things that you can tighten up on and still do a great job that farmers and ranchers do in this state. But like the governor had mentioned, let's look at not only trade. Obviously, trade we're seeing a few trade templates, and some of the trade deals are coming, but not nearly fast enough for what we're producing. And so making sure that we're looking at domestic options that we really can utilize within this country, within the state. And so that's probably one of the biggest things that we take for granted is the food supply that we do have here and all the resources that we have here in this state. And how do we get that to consumers? How do we get that to a form that consumers can use? And so just critically important to be thinking on all aspects, whether it's the input side or the commodity side, and pushing forward and trying to do what the fifth generation back did here. You innovate, you think out of the box, you try and find new solutions, and that's what all farmers and ranchers try and do every day. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Gary Wirtish, President of the Minnesota Farmers Union. The one thing farmers always, we don't need is more instability. You know, we have to deal with weather problems. That's every year you're dealing with weather, and as the weather extremes get more, as the weather conditions get more extreme, that gets more difficult. But we're used to that. We can deal with that. Right now, the thing that's really affecting us the hardest is the instability coming out of D.C. You know, we need to get back to, Dan mentioned trade agreements. You know, the president's love of tariffs is really affecting us right now. You know, during his first administration, we put the trade war primarily against China that time. Before that, we were the #1 supplier of soybeans to China. Now we are not anymore. And I guess we need to trade. We all know that. We produce more domestically than we can consume, and we have to find more markets. But that takes time, and we need to do that. But our real fear is we're losing our reliability as a reliable trust, as a reliable trading partner around the world. You know, it's hard to. China still hasn't bought any soybeans yet, and yet Argentina is getting the $20 billion, and they're buying the next day. They bought 20 shiploads of soybean, or sent 20 shiploads to China. That's the kind of instability we can't deal with. We can't replace that China market with. That's the largest market in the world for soybeans, for one example. But we need. It's hard to do that with other countries. The other thing, what we're hearing right now is we need a farm bill. What I hear in the countryside, you need a farm bill. We had, we still run that. Still on the 2018 Farm Bill, there's some improves the commodity title that happened in the reconciliation bill, but there's a lot of pieces that haven't been done yet. The Farm Bill is one of the most rural development bills there are. There's a lot of funding for rural communities within that Farm Bill, so that still needs to be done. To tariffs, we need, hear about that. Dan mentioned the tariffs, so there's frameworks being done, but, nothing is certain. We need to get. That needs to be settled sooner than later. I talked to another friend and farmer the other day, and he said he bought a gearbox for $620. And he said the partsman, when he got it, so a year ago, that same gear, he paid $860. A year ago, that same gearbox was $620. The gearbox came from Canada. That's the effect of tariffs. That's the effect that the tariffs are doing to our inputs, which the farmer doesn't have any control of, whether it's fertilizer, machinery, that there's combines and stuff behind us. There's numerous parts in those machines that are made overseas. So by the time you put all that together, it really elevates the price of that combines. The machinery is so high already now, and it just keeps elevating the price of that. The other, we talked briefly here a little bit ahead of time about healthcare costs. That's the other issue we're hearing a lot. A lot of spouses are working off the farm primarily for healthcare. But not all spouses are able to do that, and not all spouses are able to find an off-farm job that provides health care. Right now, we're in a federal government shutdown, which needs to get settled. Both sides need to quit pointing fingers and get back together and get it done. But those that are saying that the health care cost is a December issue, they're not in danger of losing their health insurance premiums go up. They're not in danger of having to make a decision. Do I drop my health care insurance so I can make my farm payment so I don't risk going in foreclosure on my own farm? Time to put the partisan politics aside, move together. Agriculture is better when we all work together. In Minnesota, we've done a good job on that. With all the groups, we've done a good job, and we need to get back to working together. That's how you solve problems. It's no different than the farm or neighbors or family. You get together on the kitchen table and iron things out, and that's what we need to do.
Thank you. Joe? Good to see you.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the Purpose Farming family for having us out on their farm and for hosting today. And thank you to Governor Walz for getting this group together to raise some attention to these issues. We could talk for hours and hours about the different issues facing farmers now. Just the other day, with the beginning of the shutdown, I had a farmer who had delivered crop to an elevator, wasn't able to get paid because they couldn't verify a loan had been paid off. So just little things like that that are adding more and more stressors. It's exactly what Gary said. It's this uncertainty. Farmers for the last 40 years, the soybean farmers through the U.S. Soybean Export Council, through the American Soybean Association, have built up markets with their own money. Those are soybean farmers' dollars that go into the checkoff, that go into building these markets. It's taken 40 years to get to where we were with China, and with one tweet, with one post, we can have that all kind of wiped out, which that kind of uncertainty just really is frustrating. And it seems to be more and more about, instead of how are we going to fix this, whose fault is it? Who did a farmer vote for? Who did they not vote for? Every administration we have challenges. I'm not a farmer, but we joke about it in the office, and it's not really that. It's not funny at all, but it's job security. We have certain administrations, we have one issue, another administration, it may be solar panels and access to land and other issues that we have. There's always something to work on. That's why we are a bipartisan organization. We're willing to work with anybody, everybody that will help out these farmers. We're ecstatic when we can get those wins. We were very happy to see the governor a few months ago when fee increase was proposed. The governor was quick to shut that down and keep these costs and keep what he can do in the state for farmers to have that certainty. We definitely appreciate that, and hope you'll keep it up here as we move forward, and especially into the next legislative session. But we definitely appreciate the spotlight these issues are getting, and really with the issues that the farmers that spoke before me are facing. Just to really try to come together and work on some of these issues and get some beans moving out of the Pacific Northwest, hopefully over to China and other ports. Thank you all.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
We'll be glad to take some questions. We have the Department of Ag here and some folks here. I would just say two things to just keep in mind, too, is that the stress of all this across producers. We have our hotline at the Department of Agriculture to help folks. The usage of that is way up. The mental health crisis that comes with the stress of financial stresses is real, and I appreciate you bringing that up to make sure there's resources out there and take care of one another. And then I'm just going to note that, again, we need the shutdown to end. At close of business yesterday, we have to quit processing SNAP payments and MFIB payments for coming for November. So it's here, it's real. We can't backfill that at the state level. It's federal programs. And I just encourage folks, as you said again, and I'm with these folks, and we have been at this for decades together. Very proud bipartisanly of what we've been able to do. Very proud of that Ag Committee that we've been able to do. And these folks represent across the political spectrum their members. But what they share in common is that we're very proud that American agriculture, again, leads the world in quality of food, the ability to feed, fuel, and power the world, and that we are the most generous nation where we do what we can on programs to make sure people don't go hungry. And that's all these folks together. So we'd be glad if there's any specific questions from folks.
There was talk a couple of weeks ago from the president about a bailout. Does anybody have any thoughts on whether?
Well, I will say this from the political perspective. These guys will talk about it. Our farmers will tell you they don't want it, but I am supportive that they need to get the resources now. So those who say, oh, no, just don't take it, I totally disagree with that. This is not the solution. It is a Band-Aid, but when you need a Band-Aid, use the Band-Aid. So I'm going to say for these guys, if there's money to be moved right now to help out, let's help get us through this crisis, but it is not the fix in the long term, but we should do it. I don't know. Maybe you feel differently.
Well, the number that's estimated is 10 to 12 billion, and the previous time they've made it from 23 to 28 billion in his first term. The 10 to 12 billion, the farmers need it, there's no doubt. But it's kind of been self-inflicted by the current president's policy, so that's a little frustrating as a farmer. And that if that is a number, that doesn't even make it whole. Our rising inputs, as I mentioned earlier, on the price of a gearbox coming from Canada. That's the part that's going to be with us, and that's the part it's hard to stomach. There's no margin there for it. So, and farmers are not the only industry suffering. There's other industries too. So it's politically the farmers need it, but it's politically it's tough. Yeah.
Certainly, when you talk about those bridge payments to try and get to better markets, it would be appreciated, but it's not a solution. Obviously, we have to look at several other factors, trying to find whether it's a better market price, lower input costs, something to try and get that margin wider. But a bridge payment, we'll see where that goes. Obviously, the amount that was talked about isn't enough to really recover the damage. And some farmers are saying they don't want it, and just because, you know, they realize that it's a Band-Aid and not a long-term solution.
Yeah, just quickly on that too, I definitely agree with the farmers that looking at the numbers, it's not enough, but something's needed. Definitely to get us through this. It's not a long-term answer, but that something is needed. And that includes the other parts of the Farm Bill that, are missing. There are some other programs that farmers have depended on that are missing that needs to get done. So it can't be just a payment and we're done. We've got to fix these other issues as well.
It sounds like there's still you're still holding out hope for China. Is like as far as solving the trade issues, is there a point where you just say that we've lost this trade war with China and you have to look at another market or domestically? I mean, are you always going to hold out hope for the Chinese market?
We spent a lot of time and effort in building that Chinese market. It's a great market. With the USEC folks, the United States Soybean Export Council, was just talking with them. They were back there. They like the U.S. product. It is a better product than South American soybeans. They store better. They're just better in a number of different ways. So the Chinese crush plants want the U.S. soy product. So I think there is a desire to get back to normal there on both sides. Now, we're not in the trade war. The consumers and the producers, we're not in it. So we all want to get back to normal, get back to what we're doing. And so we still are definitely holding out hope. That being said, I was just in Taiwan. It's a great market. Hopefully we can get more soybeans to Taiwan. Other markets, we continue to work on that. I'll be traveling with the governor to Switzerland and Germany, I think along with Gary and Dan, to look for those other markets, because it takes everything. We need everything, so we're not giving up on it. I hope we can get back to normal relations with our customers there. This trade war wasn't about soybeans. It's kind of that's where they can retaliate. And so I think for us, there's always going to be hope that we can get back to normal.
Good question.
And if I could comment on that as well. I had the opportunity to attend the North American European Union Trade Conference here a couple weeks ago. And I will tell you, the farmers across the pond are the same as farmers here. They have the appetite and the want to really continue to succeed. And will you ever give up on a market? Absolutely not, because that's not what farmers do. They continue to see things through. My encouragement to them, because they have a lot of questions with what's going on, and our thoughts to them was get your trade negotiators to the table with our trade negotiators. Let's get these deals done. Ultimately, that's what the goal of the tariffs is to get trade deals. And so that's what we told all those folks that we were meeting with. We met with both farmers and government officials while we were there, just emphasizing the importance of they have what we need, we have what they need. It's not that hard. Let's get this together. And to answer your question, no, we'll never give up on a market, because that's not the way farmers work. We work hard and try and find solutions.
Well, thank you all. And again, thanks to our hosts for having us on here. I do think that attitude of we'll have anybody out here who wants to talk about solutions, finding solutions, really appreciated it. Hard to avoid the politics of this, because that's in all of our lives. But I think when we get back to the core of this is an important industry for us. It's a core of who we are as Americans and Minnesotans. We need to do this because the world needs to eat. The world needs to have the power that we're able to produce, and we need to find solutions. And I really like the attitude out of these folks here, is the continuing to work forward on that, and we'll continue to try and hold their feet to the fire to do that. But we're also looking at what we can do in Minnesota, creating those domestic markets. I think that's a really good way to approach this, because it gives us some hope. So thank you all. Again, Jim, thanks. Appreciate that. Good message. Thank you, guys. As always. I know a lot about China, but they don't want me talking about China. Sons of bitches. You'd have thought that had been a positive. You'd have thought it had been a positive.